Hello, everybody, and happy Tuesday. It's Amber Hug here from Schwarzkopf, National Education Manager for Schwarzkopf. We're here for our second Ask Me Anything. You might notice our background changed just a little bit. So we are the corporate office here in Culver City, and we're in what's called the brand room. So these are all bowls of what look like hair colors. Some of them even have hair brushes. And then we have some of our products here to the side. I'm so excited to have you join me today. I would love for you to type in and tell me where you're tuning in from so that we can see where everyone's coming from. I'm out here in Los Angeles and we're excited today to talk to you about Vibrance. And I'm going to answer all the questions that you guys type into the chat box. And I'm happy to answer anything that you have. On top of that, if I haven't maybe answered your question, or maybe you want a one-on-one conversation with somebody from Schwarzkopf, did you know that you can have a one-on-one conversation? Yeah, we have that. If you want to go to our Switch page, which you can find on our website, schwarzkopf-professionalusa.com, you can find our Switch page there, and you can actually set up a one-on-one call to ask all the questions you want with some of our other experts in the field. So let's get straight to it. Let's start answering some questions. So start typing your questions into the chat box, whether you're here from Instagram, whether you're here from Facebook, or whether you're here on YouTube. Just type those questions into the chat box and I'd be happy to answer any of those questions for you. Let's see if we have anything going here. So far, I see that Kiki said hello. Anybody else that wants to say hi, feel free to say hello. Would love to say hello. So let's see what we got here. We've got some people from Toronto. I'm doing great, guys. How are you? We've got somebody from Pakistan, Philadelphia, Dallas, San Antonio, Texas. We've got Cleveland, Ohio, Denmark, New Jersey, Charlotte, North Carolina. Wow, you guys are coming from all over the place. I love this. All right, so we got lots of places where you're coming from. Well, we had people type in some questions. So we'll go ahead and get started on answering some of the questions that you guys sent to us over the weekend. And maybe that will get your brains going on maybe what you would like to answer or have answered today. So I know one of the questions that we had to do with developers and when to use which developer with your Vibrance color. So I want to talk to you about when to use lotion versus gel. And I know that Jerome is here helping me out. He may find the question and pop it up. But if not, we are talking about when would I use lotion versus gel? Well, first of all, let's talk about when how many developers we have. So these are actually called activators with our Vibrance. And so we have a 6-volume gel activator. We have a 6-volume lotion activator. And we have a 13-volume lotion activator. So I use my gel activator when I'm wanting to do quick, easy techniques like refreshing mid-lengths and ends, toning at the shampoo bowl. This can easily into a bottle and be applied super quick and easy. So it's perfect for toning and refreshing mid-lengths and ends and gives that bottle opportunity. 6-volume lotion is when I'm doing more precise application, such as shadow roots, or when I want to low light my blondes. This is my go-to. The only time that I use my 13-volume lotion is when I'm actually looking for gray blending, because I can get up to 70% gray blending with my 13-volume lotion, or when I get vibrancy to my reds. Because reds can be a challenging color, and sometimes I lack that vibrancy with a Demi permanent. So having this 13-volume lotion allows me to get that. So I feel like that's a question that can be answered every time we have these, because it's always like, why do you have so many activators and how can I use them? So let's see if we can get some other questions in here. Let's take a look and see if we have some questions. So I have from Beauty Demi, is it necessary to use Agora Developer or can you use other brand with Agora Vibrance? That is a great question. It is recommended by the manufacturer to use your dedicated Vibrance activator. The reason for that is this is designated and has special ingredients that work perfectly with our Vibrance hair color. I know a lot of times the hairstylists out there like to break the rules and try new things, but I will tell you, for the best performance, you will want to use your dedicated Vibrance activator versus using another brand. Will another brand activate the pigments? Probably, but it's not going to work. And it's not that it won't work. It's that it can't be manufacturer recommended and we can't guarantee results that way. So definitely recommend using the dedicated developer. We have another question here. Hey, I have a question. I tried purchasing a swatch book from my local store, but they did not have one, or and they said online and you don't see them online. That's another great question. So typically either the distributor stores, or if we have a salonery.com or Cosmo Prof online, any of your distributors have online and they also have in stores. So a lot of times you can purchase them that way. Now, another way you can purchase, if you're new to Schwarzkopf and you've never used the brand before, did you know that you can actually get an intro kit that comes along with a swatch book? So maybe it's something that you're order enough shades, and maybe somebody's new in the salon that's booth rental and they want to purchase enough color that they will get a free swatch book in with theirs. So take a look and talk to your local distributor. You should be able to find some swatch books that way. Next question here. I get the shampoo and conditioner. Okay, so Amber Hug, where get that shampoo and conditioner from your client's hair? What is your question? I'm not sure what that question is, but I know some shampoo and conditioner that is great for you. If you have not tried it yet, our Fiber Clinics pairs beautifully with Agora Vibrance and with Agora Riel. With Fiber Clinics, we have our in-salon treatments, but we also have our retail. The in-salon bottle would be a black bottle, and my retail is going to be these different colors. We have 3 different segments. The one I have in my hand is going to be Fortify, which is to help strengthen hair. We have our Vibrancy, which is going to help retain color, which is the #1 shampoo and conditioner we recommend to use after a color service. And then we also have Hydrate, which is going to have a squalene complex to keep that hair moisturized. So let's see what the next question is. Vanessa, I see, can I get products as a Cosmo student? And yes, as a Cosmo student, you can get products. I would talk to your Cosmo school, the school that you're at, and find out if they either have an account at Cosmo Prof, or maybe you just go to the store, let them know you're a student, and if you show them an ID, they should be able to allow you to purchase there. So students can purchase from the local distributors as well. So I'm going to have Jerome pull up another question from this weekend, see if we can get some. In the meantime, remember, type in your questions here so that we get a chance to answer anything that you have. So next question, any and all tips for reds? Ooh, you are speaking my language. You can't seem to get them right after switching from Redken. Now, I'm not sure what you're not getting correct, but I will tell you there are tools in Vibrance that can help you achieve the most beautiful reds. As you may be able to see, my hair is also a red color, so I have been every shade of red and am a pro at formulating. So my biggest tips, and if you are somebody who knows who Tracy Cunningham is, some of her biggest tips is to add in gold to your reds, especially if you're coming from another brand that has a warm background. Adding 0-55. That means it's a straight up gold pigment. It's not a level. 0 means there's no level. -55 is gold extra. If you add 0-55 to any red formula, you're going to get that extra kick, and it's going to be the most gorgeous red color that you can have. Now, reds are tricky. Are you looking for more of a copper red? Are you looking for a cool red? That will determine how you formulate, but some of my favorite shades within Vibrance that I like to use for my reds are going to be on this page over here. So this is a brand new book, so that's where the paper came from. Over here, this is probably my favorite swatch to utilize. So on this one, we've got 9-7. 9-7 is a level 9 copper. So that's a more natural copper shade. 7-77 is probably the shade I use the absolute most. I always have this in my formula. So even for my formula, these two are very important. And then down here, we have 6-78. It's a level 6 and it's a copper red. So think Florence and the Machine, her hair color. That's what this one is. And we even have a deeper shade, 5-7, which is a level 5 copper. So whenever you see just one number after the dash, that means it's a more natural tone. When I see -77, that's copper extra. There's more of that copper shade. So if you're going for more vibrancy, -77 is my go-to. If you want to get a little extra kick, You can see our boosters here, that 0-55, adding this into your formula is going to give you that extra boost. But guess what? We also have 0-77, which is our copper booster and can also boost that up. Now, if you're looking for just straight up red shades and not copper, we have those too, and that's our -88, which is our red extra. Now, what's great is these are not a warm red, they're truly just straight up red. So this is a perfect option if you're looking for that more fashion, like cherry red. These are gonna be perfect for you. So hopefully that helps you and you try some of these in your formulas at home. But we've got a few extra questions. So I see you guys are starting to type in here now. Love this. So I'm going to try to go up and find the next one that I see. So Hair by Kelly Schoaf, I believe it is the 9.5 series less pigmented than the 10 series because it's a pastel? Great question. So fun fact, both the 9.5 series and the 10 series are toners. So you're right, opposite. The 9.5 series has more pigment weight, and the 10 series has less pigment weight. So if your brain works better this way, you can think of the 9.5 series as almost a 9.5, like a level 9.5. But technically, all that means is that it's more sheer pigment weight to be put on a level 9 or above. The 9.5 series can be even used on a low level 9. So if there's still a lot of yellow left in that hair, these will definitely tone that out. Whereas my level 10 toners are as if I took the 9.5 series and mixed it equal parts with clear. That's going to give me a level 10. It's more sheer pigment weight. So the level 10 toners are going to be more sheer. That means I need to be that pale yellow, like inside of a banana peel yellow, in order to see these on the hair. If I'm not that light, these are going to do nothing for the hair because they're too sheer. But I can mix any of my toners with my regular Agora Vibrance shades to create endless creations of toners. So great question on the pastels there. Thank you, Kelsey. So I see here there's some answers, some questions that are being answered in the chat box. So it does say it's not recommended to mix Agora core range, the red box, with the Agora high lifts. And I want to kind of expound on that. So the Agora core range is a red box. So that's our Agora Real, that's permanent hair color. That red box it has the opportunity to give you up to 100% gray coverage, whereas our high lift is a blue box. The high lift means just that. I'm getting a high lift on that hair. I'll get 4 to 5 levels of lift. What does that mean for gray coverage? That means I'm not going to get gray coverage. So if I'm thinking, oh, there's a level 10 high lift, maybe I'll mix it with a level 9 for this gray coverage. Not going to work. A level 9 will get you 100% gray coverage, but a level 10 will not. So if the reason that you're mixing those two together is to get a lighter shade than a level 9, I highly recommend you check out, in the Blonde Me range, our Lift and Blend shades. So they are a product that will give you up to 4 levels of lift on the naturally pigmented hair and also tone the white hair, giving this beautiful multi-dimensional blonde. And when I say tone the white hair, I mean tone it like 100% gray coverage. It just means the hair that I'm lifting might be slightly warmer than the hair that I'm depositing on, hence the multi-dimensional. So if you were mixing a high lift with an Agora red box because you were trying to get a lighter shade of gray coverage, skip that, scratch it, and go to the Lift and Blend shades in our Blonde Me range. They will do exactly what you're looking for. So next up, I see, why doesn't high lift powders come from a tub and why does it come? Okay, so I'm assuming you're talking about our lighteners here. So why doesn't it come full in the tub? Well, that's more for packaging purposes. It's the way that it's produced and it's kind of how it has to ship. They really fill it to a certain point. They need that extra room for the movement with the powder. So nothing against you. We're not trying to cheat you out of product, I promise. And then no scoop. That's a question we get a lot. But the thing is, we as a company are sustainable and we want to continue to be sustainable. So it was probably a year ago that we decided we wanted to have a reusable scoop. And so now you can purchase a reusable scoop that you keep in your container. When you get a new container, you keep the scoop and get rid of the container. So it was a sustainability purpose is why we did it, because we found that all these plastic scoops were just sitting somewhere in a landfill, and we didn't want that to happen anymore. So great question there. So next question here that I have is from Vanessa. Is the new line equivalent to Illumina or Color Touch from Wella? Now, when you say a new line, I'm assuming that you're talking about Agora Vibrance. While it's not new, it is what this whole anything is about is vibrance. So I'm assuming it's similar. Now, Illumina, if I understand correctly, want to say Illumina is more like a brand we used to have called TBH because it still has some ammonia and it has more of a demi-permanent capability. Vibrance does not have ammonia, so it's not the same as Illumina, but it might work similar because you'll get some lift and you'll also get deposit, but it's a very slight amount of lift due to the alkalinity that is in our Vibrance. So great question. And then as far as Color Touch, yes, it would be similar to Color Touch and less similar to Illumina. So great question there. So let's see, could you add boosters too? And I don't know what you mean by add boosters too, but I do want to talk about, we have something called a bleach and tone that you can actually add to any Blonde Me lightener. And so if you're talking booster, I'm thinking neutralizer right now. If you're somebody who lifts somebody's hair and it turns out really gold or really yellow every time, you can never get rid of that orange, you might want to try our bleach and tone shades from the Blonde Me range. They are actually shades that go directly into the lightener to help tone while you heard me correctly. They go into your lightener to help tone while creating lift. There are 3 shades. It's going to be your ash, which is a blue base, your violet, which is going to be a violet base, and then our matte, which is more of a blue-green base. So the matte is for levels 4 and below. My blue is going to be, or my ash is going to be for levels 5 to 7, and then anything level 8 and above is violet. You only need 1 to 5 grams of your bleach and tone shade per scoop of lightener to get that toning capability. On fine hair, 1 to 3 grams. On a coarser texture, you would want to do more 3 to 5 grams. So hopefully that helps. And then as far as the boosters in Vibrance, they can be added to any shade in Vibrance. The only thing I caution you on, if you're looking for maximum gray blending, the 0-55 or any booster is not going to give you that gray blending. It will shear out the gray blending. So if I'm using a booster in Agora Real, I'm using it on mid legs and ends, not on the new growth. Same thing with Vibrance. If I'm looking for great blending with my demi-permanent, do not add your boosters in. So great question. Thank you, Sabrina. So next up, what is recommended for blondes in hair products? I am so glad you asked me because we just relaunched and I only have one in here, but it's not reachable. So we're not going to worry about that. But our Blonde Me range actually has a retail line. So we have in Blonde Me anything that can create lift. So we have lighteners, we have shades that create lift, but then we also have retail items. So we have shampoos and conditioners. We have a violet shampoo or a cool blondes range within it, and they are phenomenal. So any blondes that are in your salon or anyone who has lift at all, even some of the red shades that you're getting might have to be lifted first before going red. They are still a candidate for the Blonde Me retail. So highly recommend, if you haven't tried it yet, try our new Blonde Me range. It sells amazing in the salon. Your salons are going to go over to the retail shelf, see the name Blonde Me, know that that's for them, and they're going to grab it and try it, and they're going to fall in love immediately. So hopefully you give that a try, and let's take a look at the next question here. So I have a question here from Sabrina. So you can add boosters into your red formulas up to 50%. Just okay, so that's a answer. So hi Sabrina, you can. So yes, with your boosters, when you're using your boosters, they can be added into a formula up to 50% of your formula with added developer in a 1-to-1 ratio. So that's, for example, if I took, say, my 7-77, which is my level 7 copper extra, we talked about adding 0-55 formula. So say I do 20 grams of 7-77, I can add up to 20 grams then of my 0-55, wherever that swatch, I think I lost it. However, I can add up to 50% of my formula. So 20 grams of 7-77, 20 grams of 0-77, so that's copper extra, and 20 and 20 equals 40. So it'd be 40 grams of my Vibrance activator. All right, so, oh, great question here. So what do you recommend to get rid of red? So this is where I like to remind you of something called a color circle. So the red that you're trying to get rid of, it depends on what color red. If I'm seeing more of an orangey red, I come across the color circle and I can find anything on that color circle that will help to get rid of. So when we think of the laws of color, if I have red, what gets rid of the actual red? Think Christmas, green. That is its complementary color. It's going to neutralize. We're doing orange, and orange is what I'm trying to get rid of. That's what I see the most of. I need something that has a blue base. Now, I lived in Chicago before this, so I think Chicago Bears. So blue and orange cancel each other out, and they will neutralize each other. If it's a level 8 or above, typically that's yellow. Yellow, if you want to get rid of yellow, it's violet. So any sort of violet. So for that, you can think Vikings. If you're thinking fall, so that's the purple and the yellow. So if I'm trying to get rid of red, one thing you'll notice on this color circle is that there are numbers on the outside of the color circle that are colors that we have. So if I'm seeing, I'm just going to come across here to this orange and come across, and it looks like, oh, I have a -29, which is going to be a blue violet. So I'm going to have Jerome put up the number system for you here. So when you look at the numbers, the number before the dash is always your depth or your level. The numbers after the dash are going to represent the tone direction. So this color circle that you're seeing on this page here shows all of the color combinations after the dash on the color circle. So this is a great tool to use, and it's also a tool that Tracy Cunningham has hanging in her dispensary so that she understands how to formulate. So if you just come across the color circle, that's going to neutralize out. So if we're talking about getting rid of red, you need something that has a blue or a green base, depending on if it's more of a red orange or if it's just red. And that's going to be either a -2, which is ash and is that blue color, or a -3, which is a matte. So I'm going to give an example just because you wanted to see getting rid of red. If I'm a level 6 and I have red, we do have a couple of options for you here. So in my swatch book, if I'm trying to get rid of red and I'm at a level 6, 6-12 is one of my options. And I will tell you, this shade is a level 6 Cendré Ash. Cendré is a blue violet, ash is blue. So blue, violet, blue, it's going to kick out a lot of orange. And at level 6, you're seeing a lot of orange. Quick little tip. This is one of Tracy Cunningham's favorite formulas to use for a neutral base. And I said neutral. This is a cool base. But a lot of times if you have underlying warmth, this is going to cancel that out. Another option that you have here for that is going to be a -2-3. This is going to be an ash matte. So that's going to be a blue-green. So if you really do see a lot of red, this is going to be a great shade for you at a level 6 to cancel out that unwanted red. So hopefully that gave you some multiple different options that you can use. And always remember that you have neutralizers that you can also add to your formula to neutralize out and cancel out. So next question here, to get rid of orangeness on Asian hair after bleach, what is the best formulation? Great question. And my answer is going to be, what level did you lift to orange? That's going to determine what you're going to use. Now, if I hear orange, we were just talking about neutralization, I immediately think blue. I need something with blue. So if I'm on Asian hair, I might be at a level 7 or a level 8. The biggest when toning is not using a dark enough color. And we think we go to our pastel series on this back page to tone. I'm going to tell you right now, on Asian hair that has a lot of orange, this is not enough pigment weight. It's not. You're not going to get tone from this. This is not going to be enough pigment weight to neutralize out. That's when I need to go to some darker tones. And some of those darker tones that I would recommend, one of my favorites 8-11. It's a level 8 Cendre Extra. It's got extra of that blue violet shade. It's a blue violet, so it's going to help to get rid of some of that orange. However, if you have a little bit more of that orange color, and you might want to keep a little bit of warmth to it still, or a more natural tone. So maybe I don't want to completely make it a cool color. I want it to have a little bit of a natural tone. -24. We have one at a level 7 and we have one at a level 9. If you are at a level 8, I like to mix those two together equal parts to get something right in between. If she is a lighter color and has a lot of orange, I could use 9-24, but that 24 is going to be ash beige. So it's almost like we call these muted desert, and I also think of them as kind of dishwater blonde, if that's a term that resonates with you. So it's that color that if I looked at the desert, when it says muted desert, if I look at the sand and it's a cloudy day, that sand looks almost gray, but it's got this little hint of beige. That's the -24. Now think of the summertime when the sun hits the sand. Now all of a sudden I see a lot of warmth and a little more of that beige, a little less of that ash. That's going to be a -4 too. But that 2 or that ash, which is blue, is going to be very important in your formula if you have a lot of orangeness in your color as you lifted. So you just want to make sure that you're adding something that has ash. If you do 8-11 and you're like, I feel like it's too orange, I need more of that blue, we do have the neutralizers 0-22. That is our, I'd say, part of the boosters neutralizers range. It's going to get rid of unwanted orange. So great question. Thank you for that. Next question. Does SKP have a chart that shows shade background like Redken has brown to tan? I understand why you asked that question, and a lot of people have a hard time understanding background. So here's what I'm going to say to you. Our reds are truly red, and their background is just going to be red or copper. They are straight up what they are meant to be. If you want to get technical, there is no true background level system, but in general, what I have found as a stylist is that we have a bit of a neutral background in all of our shades. The reason I say that is our golds are not super gold. So when you think of 9-55, that's a level 9 gold extra. If you're somebody that doesn't like a lot of warmth, you might be like, you know what, I would never touch hair with 9-55. Nope, not going to happen. But how many of you out there like Lindsay Lohan's current color formula? Yeah, probably, because it looks amazing on her. Well, guess what? Her new growth is done with 9-55, level 9 gold extra. So there is a natural base to make that look more natural for her. So while we don't have a chart that says color has a blue black, this color has brown tan, in general, I would say we have a neutral undertone to all of our line, except for our reds that are very intense. And then when you get into the pastels, those are going to be more what you're seeing. Your background is the number after the dash. So if I'm seeing -4, that's a beige background. If I'm seeing -47, that's a beige copper background. Our colors fade on tone because we stay on the tone it's supposed to be. So we don't need to have a brown tan or like black, whatever. So I know it's a little tricky when your mind is so, wait, but what's that background? But I'm just telling you, our shades work if you use them correctly. And I'm sorry, because I know that's not a true answer, but it's also the best answer that I have for you. We do not have a chart for that. Okay, so before we move on to the next question, I just wanted to do a quick reminder, because some questions like that one can be a little more intense, and maybe the answer I just gave you wasn't enough for you. Maybe you need more. So remember, we have our one-on-ones that you can actually book with another expert for Schwarzkopf. So go to our website, schwarzkopf-professionalusa.com. Go to our switch page. On our switch page, you'll find a place where you can book your one-on-one phone call with an expert from Schwarzkopf. So I recommend, for those of you that maybe the question that you had I didn't answer correctly, go and book an appointment with one of our other experts, because they are phenomenal and they have just as much of a wealth of knowledge as me. So don't forget, that's an option for you if I don't get to your question. or if maybe I didn't quite answer the question the way you needed. So moving on to the next question so that we can keep rolling here. Next question is going to be, Milky Ash, explain E-1 and D-0. If you've never used Schwarzkopf, you're like, what is that? I don't understand what you're talking about. Those are both in Agora Real. So I'm going to show you what E-1 and D-0 are, but I'm also going to tell you that D-0, while you might find some in the store, it technically does not exist anymore. It is now 0-00. So D-0 stood for diluter with no background. So it was clear. So 0-00 is now our D-0, and it is a true clear, and it only exists, well, actually now 0-00 is in Agora Real, and it's also in Vibrance. It is our clear. E-1. E-1 is something that is going to add coolness to your formula, which might be a little bit like, maybe you don't understand what I mean by that, because you're like, wait, but Amber, you talked about the neutralizers that neutralize out bases. Yes, we have neutralizers and they neutralize out, which is this right here. Actually, I have the swatch in my hand. So these three are neutralizers. They neutralize out. So you might be like, okay, why is E-1, which is, what does the E even stand for? And like, how is that different than, say, a neutralizer 0-11? 0-11 is a neutralizer. It's meant to neutralize out. It's a cendre base. It's a blue-violet base to neutralize and leave you with just a natural color, not the color on the swatch. E-1 is meant to smoke out a color. So it's added to a color formula to make it more smoky and to truly give it a shade. It's not neutralizing. It's meant to give it a smoky shade. If you look, you can see it's almost like this gray with this blue-violet tint to it. So E-1 is meant to smoke out a shade. D-0 is what it used to be. Now it's 0-00 is its replacement, is straight up clear. It's just going to dilute your formula. So hopefully that answered that question. And then next one is what formula to use to switch from red violet to brown hair color. Another amazing question. Red violet is going to be on a color circle as well. And what do you know? My Agora Real book also has what? A color circle. So if I'm seeing red violet, I can use this the opposite way as counteracting warmth. So if I've got red violet and I'm looking down here at a red violet, I'm going to come up here. Think of what counteracts red, and then what is violet made of? So violet is made of blue and red color molecules. And my red is, of course, red. So I know that I'm going to need to have some sort of neutralization for red. And the neutralization for that is green. So you're going to come across this color circle. You're going to find something over in this area. I would say even our neutral shades are going to be a good way to counteract that red violet and take it to more of a brown. So I would start in our neutral series because especially the -00, it starts to fall into this green a little bit. But what you could do is add just the tiniest little bit of 0-33 into a natural formula. That 0-33 is that green to counteract that extra red. And again, it's going to depend how much of it is red and how much of it is violet. One thing to bear in mind, red violet fades out to more of a red shade. So you might be fighting more red than anything. So you'll want to have some sort of green in that color formula. So next question. Vibrance lifts level. It's more of a statement than a question, but I think it's based on something I said earlier, that vibrance can create a slight bit of lift. So I want to clarify that. And for that, I want to have Jerome pull up the pH scale, because I talked about vibrance being an alkaline base. So neutral is 7 on the pH scale. When you have an acidic base, it falls below that. So it's anywhere and below. 1 to 6 is going to be an acidic base, and anything 8 and above is going to be an alkaline base. So with Vibrance, we chose to make it an alkaline base, but the reason for that is to make it a more versatile brand. With some brands, your acidic base allows you to only deposit color. With an alkaline base, you're actually opening up the hair cuticle just a little bit in order to get some of the color pigments to go into the hair strand and some to sit on the outside. If it's an acidic base, it's closing that cuticle and only sitting on the outside. So with just an acidic base, you may not get as much longevity and you may not get as much color penetration. So we chose to have an alkaline base so that alkaline base can open that hair cuticle. Now, what I will say is if you use 6 volume Vibrance Activator, you should not get a shift on that hair unless it's super fine. It's just when you use 13 volume that you risk shifting that up to 1 level. So to answer your question, the reason that we have that base, or like that we chose to formulate that way and that you can get lift, is because we wanted the ability to not just deposit on hair, we also wanted to get gray blending. So we wanted to have a job that has one bottle that has 2 different jobs. I can tone hair, I can refresh mid-length and ends, but I also can get up to 70% gray blending. If it's an acidic base, I no longer get that gray blending. I can't get that color deep enough into the hair strand to get that gray blending. So the only thing about an alkaline base is that with the 13 volume, it does shift up to just 1 level. That is all you not see more than 1 level of shift, and that's only on a fine hair texture. If it's a coarse hair texture, maybe a half level. But sometimes I want that. Sometimes I need just that slight bit of shift, and I need it to get that gray blending. So great question. Thank you for that one. So Anna, this is a free educational class for hairstylists to learn our product range. Yes, that is exactly what this is. The Ask Me Anything is you guys asking me any questions. It's not a formatted class. I'm basing all of my answers around what you're typing into here. So awesome. So if you're here and you're not in the hair industry, this might not be something that you understand as much. All right, so Vanessa, does Blonde Me come with Plex? I like that you used Plex. Everybody hears that term, knows what it means. So I'm going to translate that to, do we have a bonding technology in our lighteners? And that answer is yes. All of our lighteners, whether it's a Blonde Me lightener or a Vario Blonde lightener, which I have right over here, all of them have a bonding technology. My Vario Blonde uses what's called a fiber bond technology, and my Blonde Me uses a bond enforcing technology. So integrated bonding technology. It's a very similar technology, but essentially what that's doing is creating a sleeve around each and every bond, a protective sleeve. So I like to think of it at Christmas. When you get a Christmas tree, they put that protective net around the Christmas tree to help protect it to get it home safely. Think of the bonding agent we have in our lighteners, creating a protective net around each and every bond, keeping them from breaking as you're lifting. So that to be said, guess what you don't have to add to any of your lighteners that you're using from Schwarzkopf? Any sort of bonding technology. We're going to leave the word you put in the question out of it. We're just going to call it bonding. So yes, our lightener does have a bonding technology. And I had somebody just ask if I can show the neutralizers. I showed them earlier, but 3 are your neutralizers. They come in Agora Real and they also come in Vibrance. You've got 0-11, which is my Cendre Extra. That's going to neutralize out anything level 8 and above that has a lot of yellow. 0-22, levels 6 and 7 have a lot of orange, so that's going to neutralize out the orange. And 0-33 is my matte, that's my green, going to neutralize out any red that I have. So that is our neutralizers there. So I have a little comment here that somebody feels like our lightener does swell a lot. If you get swelling with a lightener, it's typically a reaction to something that's in the hair, whether that's metals in the hair, it could be a buildup of rust water. So think of this, when you are washing your hair, you're getting metals from the pipes and those metals get caught in the hair. Now, what's interesting is lighteners have something called persulfates that help to create that lift in the hair. Those persulfates can be finicky. And sometimes those persulfates will react to different things. And one of the things that they react to is metal. What I will tell you is our Blonde Me range does have an anti-metal technology in it. What that means is it's almost like if you think of the crane machine that picks up the stuffed animals. So think of the anti-metal technology coming in and moving the metal pieces out of the way. And then when you rinse the hair, it rinses out of the hair as well. It helps to minimize the ability to swell. We all know it still happens. Any stronger lightener has the ability to get some sort of expansion. So I'm just going to tell you some tips to try to keep that from happening. First and foremost, if you're mixing up your lightener with a whisk, stop now, especially if it's Blonde Me 9 Plus. You don't need a whisk. Think about, what is a whisk used for? Most of the time, I think of a whisk making eggs. When I'm scrambling eggs, I use a whisk. What is that whisk doing? It's adding air to my eggs. So if I'm using a whisk to mix my lightener, what do you think it's doing to my lightener? Adding air. What is adding air going to do? Create expansion. So do not use a whisk. Instead, take a bowl and a brush and softly fold that lightener into the developer and continue to do so slowly to minimize adding air into the formula. So that's one. Second, a bowl of lightener should not sit out for an hour. I'm just going to repeat that one. A bowl of lightener should not sit out for an hour and continue to be used. First of all, it's losing its steam. Second of all, it gives it that opportunity to continue to expand. So you should be switching your lightener bowl about every 20 minutes. So make smaller bowls of lightener, and that's going to help. Other little tips and tricks. If I'm doing foils, I know that heat already is going to help to create expansion. It's going to help to create lift faster. So if I'm doing foils, I typically start in the back. Well, all these foils are laying on top of each other, and now all of a sudden there's so much heat back here. If you have a towel, roll up a towel, lift that hair up in the back, put that towel underneath, and let that hair lay. Minimizes the heat of the skin from heating up your foils and potentially creating more expansion. So that's a tip for you. So hopefully those couple of tips will help you with that expansion. All right, so how to do highlights on so what I'm assuming is, how do you do highlights on hair that's already colored? Well, it depends on what color it's colored, but in general, you're just going to take your foil, weave out what you're going to do. Really, the only difference is knowing what lightener and what developer to use. So that's what I'm going to talk to you about. If somebody is a level 7 or above naturally, has light eyes and lighter skin, you may not need a lightener if it's virgin hair. My hair naturally is very light, and my money piece up here is always done with a high lift. I never do this blonde here with lightener. I don't have to. I literally do the retouch with a high lift because it's going to give me that lift and deposit. So choosing the right product, if I'm highlighting on hair that is virgin, I can use a high lift. Now you're asking about regular colored hair. Well, maybe I'm not trying to get to a very blonde shade, but I've colored her hair to say a level 6 or a level 5. We have what's called fashion lights. Fashion lights give you up to 5 levels of lift and tone in one step, even on previously colored hair. So I'll say that again, up to 5 levels of lift and tone, even on previously colored hair. These are the 5 shades that we have, and they will lift through previously colored hair. Now, if you are a level 1, 2, or 3, will you get this vibrant? Probably not. These are put on a level 5 swatch, so I can expect to get this much vibrancy on a level 5. These are off scalp only, and they're meant to be mixed with your 40 volume Agora Real developer, but they do cut through previously colored hair. So if I wanted a copper highlight and I'm a level 4 naturally and I've colored at level 4, or maybe I'm a level 5 and I want to get a copper highlight, I no longer have to lift it with the lightener and then tone. I literally can take 0-77, oh sorry, I said 0, L for lifting, so L-7, mix that with 40 volume, that's a fashion light copper extra, and that's going to give me up to 5 levels of lift and tone the copper for me. I can intermix these together, but again, these are off scalp only, so for highlighting. If I know I want to get even lighter than that, then I need to use a lightener. Now, as far as what lightener, it would determine how dark my hair color is. If I'm trying to go from black to platinum blonde, Blonde Me 9 Plus, that is what I'm going to use 100%. Just note that with that, 7 and 20 volume can be used on scalp and up to 30 volume off scalp. We not recommend 40 volume with Blonde Me 9 Plus because it is such a strong lightener, so I wouldn't recommend that. So those are some different products you can use to highlight on hair that has been colored. So hopefully that helps. I want to remind you, if that didn't answer your question, book your one-on-one. You can go to our website, schwarzkopf-professionalusa.com, and book a one-on-one phone with an Ask Expert. So not only can you do this class, but I also want to remind you that on Monday, and I'm just throwing this in here, on Monday we are doing free classes on Agora Real, Agora Vibrance, and Blonde Me. So we do these free classes virtually on a Zoom link, so it's super quick and easy. We will be advertising this later this week, so you can find where to book those. You can also find it on our eAcademy under not eAcademy. Look under our website, schwarzkopf-professionalusa.com under education. You can find all of those links there to go ahead and register for the free classes where you can ask questions on those free classes as well. So outside of this Ask Me Anything, you can book your one-on-one with an expert for Schwarzkopf to talk about vibrance or anything, or you can come on Monday. The first class is at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Second one is 10:45 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And third one is 11:45 a.m. And it starts with Agora Real, then Vibrance, then Blonde Me. So we'll go over all three of them and you can register for free. Yay. All right, so next question. How can I explain for henna coated hair and lifting for hair color? Henna. Let's have a moment for henna. Henna is impossible to get out of the hair. So I always say if you can recommend that your clients never touch their hair with henna, please recommend that. While it seems like, oh, it's a natural base to put on the hair, it really coats the hair. And if you ever experienced a henna situation, it's probably that you tried to lift that hair and realized that hair broke off really quickly because it was henna and it reacted. Henna can't be lifted out of the hair, probably, especially if it's been a lot of like use of henna. You can color and deposit over top of it, but that henna is going to be in that hair until it grows out. So for lifting hair that's coated with henna, good luck. It's probably not going to happen. You're going to have to recommend that they grow it out and try again later. Sorry. All right. So Brooke, if I'm doing highlights and a red color between foils, if I want a strawberry blonde, can I just do an emulsion for a couple of minutes? Will it last? So if I'm doing red and blonde highlights, I first want to start there because I'm not sure I quite understand the question, but I'm going to try. So if you're doing highlights and red on the same head of hair, my first tip to you is pull out your red highlights first before you pull out the blonde at the shampoo bowl. Rinse out all of that red color first in the shampoo bowl while the blonde highlights are still in their packets. Why, you ask? Red can be very strong and red can bleed onto blonde hair that is porous and create some pretty pink or soft peachy shades on the blonde. And that's not what you're looking for when you're doing highlights in red. So if you're doing both on the same head, pull all of your red foils first, rinse those, and especially if it's a vibrant red like Kelly Clarkson days where you had the big stripes, we all know what I'm talking about, then in that case, you'll want to make sure to shampoo that red as well, which might be your emulsify, then rinse that from the hair. Then you can pull all of your blonde foils and do a shampoo on everything. So as far as emulsion for a couple of minutes will it last, I don't know what you mean by that, but hopefully my explanation helped you a little bit. And if you need more, book a one-on-one. All right, so how to make level 9 brown mocha in Schwarzkopf shades. So everybody's idea of what brown mocha is going to be different. So my best bet for you is a shade that I think already has a bit of a brown mocha to it that you could probably use by itself, but you can also play around mixing it with other things. So Dash 46 is going to be a beige chocolate, and that is these shades right here. I know that there's not a level 9. It is a level 8. However, I like to mix in a Dash 65. So maybe you can take your 8-46, which is that beige chocolate, which to me sounds like a really great brown mocha shade, and I can mix it with a Dash 65, which is going to be a chocolate gold. So that'll add just a little bit more of that richness and a little bit more of that gold. Level 8 is probably my favorite one, but I know you're asking for a level 9, so I would say 9-46, which is that level 9, and level 9 65 is going to be chocolate gold. It's level 8 that's that Dash 6, which is that beige chocolate. So hopefully that helps you a little bit there. Those would be my best. If you want that Dash 65, that chocolate gold, to be a little less chocolate, I would add a 9-0 to it. So this right here, 9-0, which is my natural or neutral, with 9-65, which is a level 9 chocolate gold, would be a beautiful brown mocha color. So hopefully that helps. All right, so next question. How would you compare Vibrance to shades versus Matrix Super Sync? I'll be quite honest, I don't know that I've used Matrix Super Sync. I have used Matrix, their Demi permanent range, and I found that a lot of the shades went a lot deeper. So I don't know that I can compare to that. But what I can compare, hang on a second. I'm getting feedback all of a sudden. There we go. Okay. So what I can compare is that Vibrance versus shades. So your biggest difference between these two shades, just like a lot of Demi permanents, is acidic base. That means that it's just laying on the outside of the hair cuticle. It's not lifting that hair cuticle, it's just sitting on the outside. That also means the only way I can use shades is for toning or refreshing mid-lengths and ends. There's not a lot of additional things. Well, with Vibrance, I can also tone and refresh mid-lengths and ends. And I have that gel activator so that I can actually do it in a bottle application, except for our gel doesn't make it runny like some brands do that are liquid. It can be so liquid that it's running down your client's face. This is not going to do that. So it can still tone. The main difference between the two is I have more versatility with my Vibrance than I do with shades. So that versatility just means that I have the option to tone, but then I do also have the option for gray blending and vibrancy in my red tones. The reason I have that is because of that alkaline versus acidic, which we talked about a little bit earlier. So an acidic base is going to lay that hair cuticle down. It's not going to give lift. We have an alkaline base that, yes, it does slightly lift that hair cuticle. But what that does is it allows that hair pigment to go inside that hair cuticle, but also sit on the outside. So I'm getting a better penetration of color. But on top of that, if you watched the video at the beginning of this about the Aquasil technology, I have this combination of sugar molecules and vitamins B3 and B5. So the video's up for you guys. That combination creates this crystallization on the outside of that hair strand that really locks in the moisture, lays down that hair cuticle, and gives extreme shine to the hair. So hopefully that makes you understand. The biggest difference between the two is versatility. So next up, we've got how would we achieve a pure ash color in the hair? Well, that is a loaded question because it depends what level am I on? Has the hair already have a base that's warm? So for that question, I highly recommend that you also book your one-on-one with one of our Ask Experts and let them talk to you so you can say, okay, I'm looking for ash at this base, or I'm looking for ash at this base. I'm going to talk about it in a blonde moment. So maybe I've listed somebody and I want to get a pure ash tone. So in Vibrance, we have a lot of different toners. So it depends on how ashy you want to go. But I'm going to tell you, we have a new shade that did just launch, 9.5-11. That is my toner, pastel toner, Cendre Extra. You can see on this swatch, it's very silver, very ashy. So if you've brought your client up to that yellow, like you're up to a level 9 and you want to get a really ashy tone, I highly recommend trying that one. Now, if they're a little bit darker than that, you might need to add a level 8 to it. So again, I highly recommend with that question, go ahead and book your one-on-one with one of our Ask Experts so you can talk about what level you want to see that ash and what you want to talk about there. So any other questions? Okay, how would you use a base break on a level 5? Great question. So there are a couple ways that you can do this, but did you know that in our Blonde Me range, we actually have base breakers? So Blonde Me is an entire blonding category, and we have base breakers that will actually break the base and lift up to one level, but they also have a cool, soft cool, and extra cool. Guess what that extra cool is for? That's right, it's a level 5 base break. So if I'm at a level 4 or 5, that's going to shift me up to one level, but has an extra cool pigment weight to cool it off there. Now, I will say that Tracy Cunningham, a lot of times will just use an Agora Real color. So you could take a shade from Agora Real and use it with a 20 or 30 volume that's lighter than the base. So maybe you take a level 7 in something with a cool base. She uses like 7-21 and 8-11. 7-21 is an Ash Cendre, and then 8-11 is level 8 Cendre Extra. Those two together with 20 or 30 volume for just 5 to 10 minutes is something she does very often to just give that little bit of shift but have some control. So you have two options. You could do a base break or take a level 7 or 8 Agora Real hair color that has a cool base and use that to shift the base. So we've only got a couple more questions here. So I just want to remind you that we do have virtual classes coming up on Monday. So if you're left like, I don't have all the answers, join us for that. They are on Zoom. You can go to our Schwarzkopf-professionalusa.com and book it there, or you can book your one-on-one call with one of our Ask Experts. Which one do you recommend for pale skin? That's a loaded question as well, because I don't know if you're talking about which red shade, which blonde shade. So I would say when it comes to pale skin, just hold up a swatch next to that skin tone. That's going to be your best way to see what works best on pale skin and just see what's going to work best, because I don't know if we're talking brunette, reds, whatever. So definitely clarify that question or speak to one of our Ask Experts. So we've only got a couple of more minutes here. Let's see. 9-4 sometimes gives pinky too much lift. So 9-4 is a beige tone. Beige is a yellow or a, what do they call it? A soft gold tone is what we call it. What softens gold? Violet. Think about what creates violet. It's red and blue. I just said red and blue. So if you are getting a pinkiness, chances are that hair is just a little bit porous and it's grabbing that tiny little bit of a red molecule that's in there. So my recommendation for that is mix your 9-4. I like to mix it with a 9-1, which is my Cendre. It's a really beautiful base that gives a really natural tone and will help to cool it off a little bit. Or potentially use the 9-4 and maybe add a little gold into your formula so you have a little less of that violet that's kicking out the gold there. So, all right, we only have time for about one, maybe two more questions. So I'm going to take a look here. I love your current gold. Oh, thank you. Thanks for, she said she loves my gold money piece and the copper look. My formula, great question. So my formula changes on a regular basis. The last couple of times I haven't been pulling the formula through the mid lengths and ends, but I did use one of our brand new toners, which is 10-57 to tone all the rest. That 57 is a gold copper. Remember I talked about adding gold to your copper? That gave me this great shimmer that I have. So for my new growth, I actually mix exactly what I tell you not to do. The high lift with Agora Real, I take 9-7 mixed with 10-0. And I mix that for my new growth mixed with 30 volume, and that gives me that lift. Now for the rest, 7-77 is the majority of my base, and I've been adding 9-7 and just a smidge of 7-88, which is level 7 red extra. And that is my new growth formula. And I low light just a few pieces through that to create dimension and use 10-7 in Vibrance as the rest. With that, I think that's all we have time for. So thank you guys so much for joining us in the brand room. I hope you loved the new environment. We can keep it here. Just a reminder, our next Ask Me Anything is going to be happening, I believe, next on the 14th, August 14th. So our next Ask Me Anything is August 14th. Start thinking of your questions now. If you're like, I need that answer before the 14th, book your one-on-one with one of our Ask Experts so that they can explain to you in detail and answer all of your questions. Just go to our website, Schwarzkopf-professionalusa.com, go to the switch page to book that appointment there. And remember, on Monday, we have 3 free classes. You can find that on our website as well. Join us on Monday to learn even more about Agora Real, Agora Vibrance, and Blonde Me. So thank you guys all for joining today. Join me again on August 14th. I will see you there with some more questions. If I didn't get to your question, sorry, just book with our Ask Expert and they will answer it for you. Have a great rest of your week and we will see you guys next week.